And I think there's an opportunity, if people have questions, to write your questions down, and we're just going to kind of start asking some of the questions. And, Robert, you talked about the flawed initiative process. And one of the frustrating parts of my job is when the economy is good, there's plenty of money, nobody complains about the programs. When we face this fiscal crisis, everybody's fighting over the crumbs. And because of the initiatives that have passed, those are the mandates that have to get paid first. And then it leaves very little to go to the other programs that we have been traditionally funding. So what do you propose? I know we want to have citizens put initiatives on the ballot. It seems like only the wealthy ones can actually afford to do this. But what happens is it becomes a huge problem, like our jail issue, our prison population. Prop 13 passed, not Prop 13, but three strikes laws. And since the voters passed it, we have to abide by it, and there's a lot of people in jail that perhaps shouldn't be in prison based on the three strikes. So what do you propose?
There are a couple of ways I would respond to that. First, I think we need to keep in mind the larger context in which this happens. One of the main reasons why voters feel the need to do ballot box budgeting, as we call it, is because the legislature can't do it themselves. Not, again, because we have bad legislators, but because we have a bad process. Since 1978, we have had a structural revenue deficit. California, since Prop 13 passed, has simply not had the money to pay for our basic needs, for schools, for water, for roads, transportation systems, and even prisons. So when Californians decide to do something like create the three strikes rule, mandating a massive expansion of prisons, it comes out of the pocket of education, comes out of the pocket of health care. So to solve this problem, right, to get the public to do less ballot box budgeting, you need to solve the underlying revenue problem. You need to fix Prop 13, you need to fix the way the state raises money, you need to fix the way the state funds its core services. The second problem then is how do you deal with the initiative process itself, right? Let's say that we have the ideal situation in which suddenly California, we're back in the 1960s and 1970s, the California dream is alive again, and we can have the best school system in the nation. What do we do then when voters get another bright idea like three strikes? There are reforms that I do think ought to be pursued. I think pay-as-you-go initiatives are probably a very good idea. I don't think there's anything wrong with asking voters to identify funding sources for new programs. I think there are also ways to explore returning the initiative process to the power of the people. 100 years ago, almost exactly 100 years ago, 1911, we created the initiative process because we had a state government controlled by corporations, primarily the railroads, and they essentially bought legislators and got the policies they wanted done, and the people of the state of California were frozen out of the process. The initiatives were designed to fix that, and they are failing to fix that. One of the main things we need to do is have some real initiative campaign finance reform. Find ways to limit the expenditures of different organizations on ballot initiative campaigns. I also think we need to explore ways to make it easier for the people of California to actually propose initiatives. I was born and raised here in California. I know that might sound weird to people, but the notion of initiatives, on the fact that I was born in California. But having lived here, people in California are wedded to the initiative process. We are never getting rid of it, even if we decide it is a good thing, and I'm not convinced it would be a good thing to get rid of it. It's going to be here. What we need to do is find ways to allow the people of California to perhaps use it more easily. Looking at online signature gathering processes would be, I think, very useful for that. Another final thing I would keep in mind, knowing the Prop 8 debacle, I think it is worth exploring making initiatives, constitutional amendments in particular, must be passed by 2/3 of the electorate. You could also do a grandfather clause so that if you wanted to, repeal Prop 8, something that the Courage Campaign is very actively supporting, the repeal of Prop 8, that you could have a grandfather clause that any initiative passed by a majority could be repealed by a majority, but all initiatives going forward that change the Constitution must be approved by a 2/3 rule. That's one way you can protect the Constitution. You look at the U.S. Constitution, you need 2/3 of the House and Senate to pass the amendment, and you need 3/4 of the states. We've had 27 amendments in the history of the United States Constitution in 222 years. We've had 500 amendments to the California Constitution in 130 years. Clearly, we need to find a way to balance giving people the power to use the initiative process as intended, while also ensuring that it is not misused.
Anyone else have any comments? Or should we just go on to the next question?